The Public Safety Veterans Subcommittee, we're going to call this meeting to order. We have no call to the public, so we'll go to item number consent
Minutes.
items.
Minutes?
Oh, the minutes, I'm
I'd
sorry.
move approval of the minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, it passes. Consent items.
Move approval?
Second.
Alrighty, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. And we're on item number 3, Phoenix Cares Program. Let's find out how much we care.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski and members of the subcommittee. We are here this morning to give you an update on Phoenix Cares. With me at the table is my boss, Deanna Jonovich, Deputy City Manager, Chris Hallett, Neighborhood Services Director, and Commander Anthony Vasquez with our police department. Phoenix Cares, implemented in November 2017, utilizes existing resources from a number of city departments to connect individuals experiencing homelessness with services while reducing the impact on our community. Chris will now discuss the features of Phoenix Cares.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everybody. A quick overview of the program of Phoenix Cares shows it as a single point of contact, one-stop shop approach to customer service. All reports come into one call center where they are acknowledged, triaged, and dispatched accordingly. Now, a contracted Community Bridges outreach team is dispatched first to respond to any homeless on site, where they will attempt to contact the individuals, engage with them, and connect them to needed services. CBI will also take whatever actions are necessary, including driving the homeless individuals to any needed services such as shelter, hospital, or other. And on occasion, when those in camping choose not to accept services or choose not to move from the location, CBI may refer them to the police department, where they will attempt to engage them with services or to move them from the location. Otherwise, they will begin documentation for a possible enhanced prosecution. Now, when the encampment is declared of all persons experiencing homelessness, either through CBI or police, Neighborhood Services works with the property owner to get the property cleaned up. Now, here's a breakdown of the first 3 months of Phoenix Cares reported requests for services. We've got about over 50% of the calls come in online or answered live. 23% receive an automated acknowledgement from our online pay system. About 12% call after hours on the weekends and leave a voice message where they should receive an acknowledgement on the next business day. Now, the nearly 1,100 reported requests for services, 2/3 of those are encampment related, and it's roughly a 50-50 split between public or privately owned properties where the encampments reside. The other third are non-encampment related, involve mostly just individuals. We have had 849 unique case locations. The difference between that and the 1,100 is duplicate reports. Now, Phoenix Cares takes a variety of departments' involvement in order to respond and resolve. The number of department referrals shown here show a vast majority of cases involve 2 or more departments in order to resolve an encampment. Now, Marshall will now walk you through her department's case referrals.
Phoenix Cares is designed to lead with services. Of the 790 cases referred to the Human Services Department, Community Bridges, or CBI, contacted 399 individuals. Many times when individuals are on site and CBI responds, at times they will walk away, or at other times they actually are not on site. So that's why there is the difference between the 790 individual cases versus the 399 individuals that were contacted. When you look at our demographics, 65% of the individuals are male, 35% are female, and the majority ranged in age from 25 to 55 plus years old. Going forward, if you will notice, currently there is not demographic information for individuals between the ages of 5 and 17, and that is because CBI was not including those individuals because they were part of families. And so going forward, we have asked CBI to ensure that as they are working with families, that they are tracking the demographic information for the minors that are part of that family. Of the 399 individuals that were contacted and who were willing to provide information, They self-reported in various areas such as being disabled, being a veteran, having some type of health insurance, and were determined to be chronically homeless, which is defined as an individual who has been homeless at least 1 full year and has some type of disability. Of the 399 individuals contacted, 277 received various services such as assessments, shelter, transportation, connection to benefits such as health insurance, Social Security, and workforce development. And of the 277 that received services, 10% are off the streets. We do have a success story we want to share. We had a woman who had been homeless since September of 2016 after her husband passed away. She was unable to afford the monthly rents on her home and was evicted. CBI conducted outreach and determined she had numerous health issues, required the use of a wheelchair, had her temporarily placed in a shelter, but after reaching the maximum time allowed in the shelter, she refused additional services and chose to go back to the streets, unfortunately. However, 2 weeks later, CBI found her sleeping on the streets, reiterated their need to want to outreach with services. This time, we're able to get her to accept services, which included a doctor's visit, helped her obtain her permanent disability status, and was provided with a navigator to help her through those appointments and documents. And in January of this year, she was moved into her own apartment. This is just one of many examples of how the outreach system works. As mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, there are many resources in our Phoenix Cares Toolkit. Commander Anthony Vasquez will now discuss another one of those tools, the Misdemeanor Repeat Offender Program.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski and committee members. I'm Anthony Vasquez of the Mountain View Precinct. I currently have the Misdemeanor Repeat Offender Program under my chain of command. The squad is assigned to the precinct and was established to address individuals who are affecting our crimes for service and our crime statistics, not only in the precinct but throughout the city. The squad is actually the liaison for the Phoenix Cares program. So in the last 3 months, we've had 284 total contacts with the squad members. That's 10 detectives throughout the city. We've had 153 of those contacts that have been reported in incident reports. Those are our criminal investigations that we conduct. We've also had 131 field interrogations that are done just to document the contacts that we've had. So for our enforcement component, we've had 21 cases that have been assigned to the city prosecutor's office for misdemeanor crimes charges, and 42 to the county attorney's office for felony charges. To date, we had 117 cases that were routed to us through the Phoenix Cares program. The detectives go their initial contact for the police department in each one of those cases. They try to immediately resolve the issues, and we also support the other city departments. So we do that whether it's neighborhood services, public works, or wherever else. We do our trespassing enforcement, our authority to arrest posting, and then we're out there for security and support for cleanups. And Chris will now walk you through some of the encampment cleanups.
Thank you, Commander. Yes, last but not least, before closing any cases, the property cleanup. Here are some examples of numbers involving reported encampments on both public and privately owned properties. Picture shown here of one publicly owned property just south of the downtown area. And here's the pictures of the cleanup afterwards and what you would see on 403 public and private property cleanups that Public Works, Streets Transportation, Neighborhood Services, and private property owners were able to clean during the first 3 months of operations. And now, Marshall will walk us through a real-life soup-to-nuts example of how the Phoenix Cares holistic approach to responding to a customer call regarding a large-scale encampment.
Thank you, Chris. A recent encampment at 4th Avenue and Lincoln Street highlights how the Phoenix Cares program works to connect individuals in our community experiencing homelessness with appropriate services while reducing the impact on our communities. This was an encampment that started out as 2, and as you can see, quickly grew to 16. There were 16 individuals on site. CBI was able to place 9 in services, including a veteran who was placed in transitional housing and 2 individuals who were placed in a substance abuse recovery center. Of the remaining 7 individuals, 6 refused services and 1 was arrested on an outstanding warrant. Specific to the property, there was an authority to arrest on file. The property owner cleaned up the lot, and our Public Works Department cleaned the right-of-way areas. Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee, this concludes our presentation.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure if there's any questions for my colleagues. If not, we do have a card.
I have a question. Go.
All right, Ms. Summers, come on down.
Good morning, and happy almost St. Patrick's Day. I have to tell you, though, I appreciate the opportunity, but I am disheartened about Phoenix Care's ability to protect our neighborhoods, our businesses, and our parks. Vice Mayor, I agree with your comments on October 11th. It is a large issue for neighborhoods. With the Phoenix Cares meetings last year and every one that I attended, there was not a single one that the issue of parks and the problem of homelessness was not discussed. Rules can be simple. Equipment is to be used for what it was designed for, not for an adult sleeping on a slide, for example. I asked for a review of the park rules and met with the Parks Department and the Police Department. The police were very receptive. I agree that we cannot, arrest ourselves out of this problem, but I think we need to take a serious look at actually defining the homeless that we have. For example, many homeless will tell you they are not homeless because they have a place to stay all day and because somebody feeds them and somebody gives them a place to sleep. For homeless by choice has now become a lifestyle, not only in our city but throughout the United States. And quite honestly, I've said it before and I'll say it again, an uncoordinated network of nonprofits is still not the answer. And yes, Vice Mayor, as you stated in that same meeting, I agree with you because I'm beginning to see the loss of compassion that's starting to go with anger, not only in the businesses, but the neighborhoods and in our parks. Again, we have a compassionate and effective program in ROPE, and I certainly hope that we'll see a way to increase the officers in that and work better with the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we also have Neil.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, and Councilwoman Williams. I just want to cover a couple of things that were covered at the October 11th Subcom hearing. And Mr. Chairman, some of the things that you asked for at that meeting include creating an org chart to find out who's responsible for what. Both the Vice Mayor and you, Mr. Chairman, asked specifically who's in charge of this program. Both of those statements did not make it into the minutes. You also asked for creating benchmarks so we can see how we can measure our achievement or if we're even meeting it, and how many homeless individuals that we encounter have criminal records. And as part of that, I asked how many that we're in touch with. We say that we're leading with services. Do we know if those people that we are offering service to are out on felony warrants? For the individuals that are reported, the 399 individuals, and I'm assuming this is from November until now, I remember that we also were presented with numbers on October 11th, so I mean, theoretically we should be measuring those numbers as well. But the question I would ask is how many of those individuals that are reported now, the 399 individuals that were engaged, and then the 277 that received services, are any of these people the same people? Are we counting them more than once? Or are they separate individuals? And then how are we tracking them? Once the 277 that received services, are we tracking them? Do we know where they are after we refer them to that first agency? Do we just refer them once and then they are gone? Do we know what happens to them? Do we continue to provide them services? Should we not know what's happening with those people? With that, I just thank you. I think we need to track. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, is there answers to those questions about the, are they the same people? Do we have a tracking system to make sure that the services are provided and if they're still involved in the services, or is there rotating? door that,
Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee, a couple of those questions I can address. When you talk about who is in charge of Phoenix Cares, if you will, the Human Services Department will serve as the lead department to coordinate all of our Phoenix Cares efforts. Of course, understanding that it's a multi-departmental approach to how we address calls that we receive for encampments and other homeless-related services. But for purposes of administering the program, it does sit with the Human Services Department. As it relates to the question regarding the 399 individuals that we contacted, those are 399 separate contacts. Those are not duplicate contacts. As it relates to the 277 that received services, those are individuals, 277 separate individuals that received various services. As it relates to individuals and tracking once they're into the services, there's a unique nuance, and it has to do with a definition that's provided by HUD that service providers relative to homeless services have to use. And in essence, services are truly tracked when an individual provides to us a date of birth and a social security number, which creates a unique identifying piece of information relative to them. And so they are tracked from that point in what is called the Homeless Management Information System. So we're tracking from that perspective in terms of when they are engaged in services, and we have those documents and a signed release, if you will, that allows us to track with that information. If we're talking about the third step in terms of when an individual is referred to an agency and the agency accepts them and they go through the actual treatment, services, whatever that may be, we are working with CBI in order to be able to gather that information. And the uniqueness in that for us is that once it leaves CBI's hands, it is in the hands of a separate entity that we don't have a contract with that requires any reporting relationship, but we recognize the value in having that information, and we'll be working towards what we can do to be able to do some tracking after we hand an individual officially off for services.
and the other questions were, we did ask for like an org chart, so we made sure that all the departments and which departments ahead, and we know that the Human Services, but is there an org chart, and how can we actually, see that? And then the other thing is, have we set benchmarks to make sure that we're reaching those goals that we're setting for this program? So any of those, is there an org chart, and is there?
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, we can certainly put together an org chart and roles and responsibilities of every city department. We have a draft org chart that we've been working towards, but we can certainly make sure that we get an org chart developed with all the roles and responsibilities of each department.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Or it would be nice to have a org chart, but really, I would like to see a flow chart on how it operates and how each services or each department comes into play and at what point. So I'm going to use your example. The 76-year-old homeless woman, she was touched. So how was she then enter into the database regarding, or how is she then entered in the first time as the 76-year-old homeless woman?
Chairman Nowakowski and Vice Mayor Pasteur, let me respond this way because I don't have detailed case file information in front of me. But ideally, the way it should work is that at the point in time in which she was connected with services, if in fact she would be inputted into the system with whatever basic information she provided to CBI. If that particular piece of information also included a date of birth and social security number, then there's a unique identifier, if you will, that's in the management system that we use to track her and track where she's going to specific services. If in fact she did not provide initially a date of birth and a social security number, she's tracked in the system, if you will, but there's not a unique identifier, and that's the uniqueness in the tracking system is the way you track in detail is based upon that identifying information, because there are multiple individuals in the system which could have similar information, and I don't know if that adds some clarity to that or if you want to add.
Yeah, so Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, Vice Mayor Pasteur, each time that they're being contacted, Community Bridges is putting them in a system. The difference is at which point are we making a contact versus providing a service versus they're officially enrolled and actually placed in some sort of housing. So every time we're making a contact, you are gathering more information because the majority of these individuals, when you first talk with them, they don't even want to tell you their name. As we said before, on average, you're making 6 or 7 contacts. Each time we're coming in contact with them, we're gathering more and more information on the individual. So they are officially tracked when they give us their actual name and date of birth. We typically will get a name from them initially, and that will put them in the system, but to uniquely identify them and track them through where they are in, as far as services go in HMIS, we need that identifier to do that.
So then so technically, these cases 277 could be duplicates.
They're not duplicates because on the 277, we have the actual person's name. The 277 are receiving a type of service. It could be transportation, it could be we gave them food. What we define or HUD defines as actually enrolled in the program is when literally they're receiving a service in which we're able to track them in HMIS for those purposes. But all of the 277 are in CBI system and they're giving us unique information on them.
So the 277 then is a number that that each person has identified themselves.
Yes.
That's how I'm looking at it. So 277, the way you're using the information is through the HMIS or HMS or whatever. I don't know what it's called. That's because you have a birth date and a social security number, I'm assuming, or a name to the birth date or something. Whatever information is used. Is that 277 pure data?
The 277, so the 399 are the people that we specifically came in contact with. So CBI came out and they literally talked to 399 people. Only 277 of those 399 were willing to take a type of service from us. So 277 are unique people that took a type of service from us.
And that's when the tracking starts.
And that's when the tracking starts.
Okay.
When you're talking about the 10% that are housed, those are people that we have all information on. Date of birth, social security numbers. We need the date of birth and social security numbers so that we can track them through every service that they're provided in HMIS because the region is required to input their information into HMIS.
So I'm going to go back to the 76-year-old woman because the 76-year-old woman more than likely at the first touch did not give her name. So we had probably some identification or some data knowing that this is a 76-year-old woman. Then the 76-year-old woman, how the story goes, went into a shelter, got services. At that point, then you started tracking this woman because you had her information.
Because more than likely, you, Mom, who operates the Watkins Women's Shelter, has to put that individual into the system to provide those shelter services. So they would have name, date of birth, social security number. All of that has to be input into the HMIS system.
Okay. So then the reason why we know her story is because she's in the system. And then when she came around the second time, we were able to follow her or see how she traveled through this journey. And that's then how we knew she got an apartment.
Right, yes, Chairman Nowakowski and Vice Mayor Pastor, that is correct.
So I think and it's going to be from us, or at least I think where we first started in October was we want a system. We want a database system to know what exactly, not exactly, but to know how many touches we're touching, how many people are we actually interacting with CBI, regardless if today CBI gets a call, they show up at Safeway. I know that I was at Safeway at 10 o'clock. I encountered a woman with 2 kids. That's information that we want to know because at the end of the day, we're going to make a decision as to what is it really costing us. What's the ultimate cost to us to run Phoenix Cares. And I think this information is crucial to gather and understand. The other piece is, and I think this is where it's really going, we're really where the conversation started in October 11th. It has to do with the database that police has and how MROPE uses their information and how they gather their information, because MROPE has a whole another type of database that I'm aware of, and I think that's what Jenny
Use RMS, right?
and Neil are going to about the database, the bigger database that that police can use. I think it has to come back to safety, and I think I'm making assumptions at this moment, so I'm just seeing if I'm on the right track of when CBI comes into contact with someone, do they know at that moment if they have the ability to know if they have a warrant or felony and I think that's where the bigger conversation is still going to keep going. So I know the answers, but what I'm saying is I think that's where the type of system eventually we want to see.
Because right now, just to clarify, Councilman Nowakowski and members of the subcommittee, of the 849 cases that were referred, 790 were referred to HSD, only 117 were referred to police. So not every call coming in is being referred over to police. It's actually a smaller percentage being referred to police and the majority of them being referred to HSD. So there isn't a police interacting every single time a case gets referred to HSD.
But I think what we're getting calls on a daily basis saying we have somebody out in the park and they're really friendly with our kids. And then we have Phoenix Cares goes out there, finds out this person needs some help, but then it happens to be a child molester on file that we're looking for, but we're not running a background check on that person. So it might be a nice person that's out there, but at the same time, this person might be an individual being wanted by the law. So we're not sure. I mean, we're still trying to work out all the kinks, but how do we make sure that some of these individuals that are happening to sleeping in our parks, maybe they're looking at our children, and we're thinking that they're just sleeping in our parks, but they're actually setting up and preying on our kids. So those are the concerns that we're getting from residents, especially within our public spaces, not just the parks, but even on our light rail, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we all want to feel comfortable enough to say, yes, the system has some kind of a check and balance there where we actually check those individuals out when we're giving them services. And this isn't a person that needs shelter, needs some medical care, needs to go through a rehab, and we did a background check and they don't have any felonies or warrants for their arrest. I'm not sure if that's a part of the system or not.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, it's not. It would involve trying to coordinate between the CBI system and a check through the RMS system, and police officers available to make that connection every time we go out and make a contact.
And then the second question would be, how much more staff time from our police officers that are already overloaded with other cases? Can a layperson do that? I'm not sure. So I think we need to start thinking outside the box so we're not taking officers away from their daily duties. And this is one of the things that I thought Phoenix Cares was helping out, right? So that we don't have officers going and moving people from parks or from right-of-ways. Then the Phoenix Care program can actually do that, so we can have more officers out there on the streets protecting our community. So I know that this program's brand new, folks. I mean, we have a lot of kinks and we're fine-tuning it. And these are some of the things that have been brought to our attention. And it's really a conversation we're all having, and hopefully we can fix it and create an example that people can take throughout the whole country and use it, right?
I have a couple questions I wanted to ask. When the calls come in, how much time does it take for someone to actually go out and respond?
Chairman Nowakowski and Councilwoman Williams, as it relates to a call that comes into the Human Services Department that requires a CBI response, we request that that be done within 3 working days.
3 working days.
At the
So if a
maximum.
call comes in, it's going to be 3 days before anybody goes out to that site and contacts them?
At the maximum, depending upon staffing. So currently with CBI and the number of teams that we have and the way they're spread out and covering the entire city, there are times when, yes, we put a performance metrics in there, if you will, of at least 3, at a maximum of 3 working days. But if it's a situation that rises itself that we need to say, no, we need to pull from here to go immediately here, we will do that. That's where the triage will occur on the Human Services Department side. After the initial call comes in, we have a team person that will take a look at that. And if we need to ensure that it's expedited response, for lack of a better way of putting that, we will do so. But there are at times when a call will come in and it may take up to 3 days for CBI to be able to respond.
I guess, you know, I've questioned it 10,000 ways on data. And when, knowing that it takes 3 days, do you track if they're still there, if it takes 3 days?
Chairman Nowakowski and Councilwoman Williams, yes, we do. So when the call comes in to Phoenix Cares, Human Services tracks our piece of it. We track the information that we receive as a result of the call. And then when CBI goes out to that particular location, CBI then is adding into the database what was the result or assessment of going out on that particular call, which could be individuals still on site, no individuals on site at that time, or different other things that could occur, but that is tracked in the system.
One thing you haven't talked about this morning are navigators, which I think are extremely important and probably are going to have a growing importance as you continue. Could you describe what a navigator is and what we do?
Chairman Nowakowski and Councilwoman Williams, navigators are, if you would, basically a very targeted approach to moving individuals into services. Navigators have primary responsibilities for doing multiple follow-ups. As Deanna mentioned, oftentimes it takes 8, 9, 10 touches before we can move an individual into some type of service or services. So the navigator would be the individual teams that would do those continued touches, if you will, to build the trust. And then the navigators would also be the individuals, as we referenced with our homeless women who we eventually were able to place into housing, also walk an individual through the system or the process. So making sure that they're going to their appointments to get whatever services, making sure that they are completing necessary paperwork, really hand-holding, if you will, and providing support to individuals to get them to where we know we need to get them.
And that's in addition to the first responders, so to speak.
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, so I know you haven't had this a long time, but you should have enough experience now. Where do you need more resources, or do you, and what have you learned?
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, our initial task at this was to really get a handle on how many calls are coming in, what parts of the city we're going to. So we're currently tracking where the calls are coming. I will tell you, the calls are coming citywide. We've learned that, you know, I know people sometimes think the homelessness is downtown, it's by the campus. We're getting calls in just about every single district, so it is citywide. We currently have 4 outreach teams. So when you talk about 4 outreach teams, you're talking about 8 people covering the entire city. So we have strategized a bit on, we're able to get out there and make the initial contact. So we can get out there and talk to the person that's calling in within 3 days. Where we're lacking is the navigator piece and the follow-up piece to get back out there, to get them engaged, to get them convinced they do want to come in for services. And when they do come in for services, they're going to the appointments, they're applying for their benefits. So we definitely see a need for increased navigation services and retooling a bit on the outreach side, trying to get out there quicker, making the contact, but then sending navigators behind the outreach teams as well. And to the chairman's point, really working with the police department on how we can better utilize the outreach teams to interface with the police, so we're not necessarily having to send police, but making sure the people that we're coming in contact with, if there's issues with them, how are we partnering with police to address those as well?
I guess my last question is, I know these people don't necessarily fall under this program, but yes, they do. The ones that are at the shelter, you know they're homeless, you know they're going back out. Do you work with them at all to make sure that they receive information on the services that are available? Because otherwise you're just throwing them back out to the neighborhoods when they leave Cass.
Yes, so with the Cass campus in particular, we have a very targeted approach there as well. Sheila Harris, who is managing the Cass campus now, we're working very closely with her. She has identified her own navigator teams that are working specifically down at the campus. We work with our police department as well, and streets and public works. We literally have our own team assigned specifically to the campus, coordinating with them as well, because to your point, what we don't want to do is they come into the overflow, they go back out into the community. We are going to be meeting over the next few weeks on the outflow of the individuals coming out of Cass and how quickly that's occurring to allow more people from the overflow to go into Cass. So the people coming out of Cass going into housing so that we can get more people of that 250 that we're talking about that goes into the overflow every night into Cass.
And is that true with you, Mom?
Yes, UMOM, it's a little different on the family side, although it's complicated. It's not near as complicated as the singles. They fine-tuned it enough to know exactly what the inflow is and what the outflow needs to be to get the families in, although we still have families on the street. But with the coordinated intakes and the coordinated centers that people are coming through now that we've done over the last couple of years, we have a much better idea of how many people are coming through the system than we ever have across the region.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I have some questions about the navigator side, because I think we have had an excellent program, really a gem, in the process of MROPE and how MROPE works. And I feel like what's happening, the element that's not part of this, it is and it isn't, in the sense of the police. Because what happens is with MROPE, and how I understand it, is that once that goes in, there is a navigator, or what I call as a caseworker. And there were caseworkers that with MROPE worked these pieces. And then we phased out our caseworkers, or as we went through this process to create Phoenix Cares, they were phased out in the sense of, I can't remember the titles, but last year they were phased out in order to move money and to create what Phoenix Cares is today. Throughout this whole process, from the very beginning, and I don't understand the CBI and now navigators, because I've always advocated for navigators from the very beginning, in the sense of they're the ones that touch, they're the ones that do the intrusive, and I call it intrusive, in my education world it's called intrusive counseling. Intrusive case management, and really trying to get the information and understanding the needs of that person, which takes longer, takes a little bit more time, but the success rate is bigger. And so what is CBI doing? Are they just doing the touch and then they're handing over the navigator to the navigator, or I'm not understanding?
Mr. Chairman, Vice Mayor Pastor, no, part of the issue we faced with, there's only 8 of them. And so ideally, the more CBI outreach or any type of outreach we get, we can split them between outreach and navigators. Technically, the outreach person that's going out for CBI now, if we weren't dealing with 790 people that they're trying to touch, they could do that follow-up piece and do that navigation piece. The problem is there's so many people we're dealing with. We need a group that goes out and does the initial touches. We need another group that goes back out from those initial touches, or you're ideally having the exact same person trying to work both sides of it, if you will. So we have 399 that they touched. There's not a lot of time for them to go back out and navigate and work with the people that they've touched, per se, because there is too many for them to be working with as calls are still coming in. So if we took a group of them, let's just say we had 15 total. You could ideally take 7, have them be responsible for the initial touches, and then they get handed off to the other 8 and say, you're solely responsible for going back and continuing to make those touches and engage them and get them in the system and follow them through. But you can't have the 8 people making 399 touches and say, okay, go back out there and deal with those same people, because we still have people coming in the system that need to go make initial touches with. It's a capacity issue, to be quite frank. There are too many people we're trying to touch and follow up with all at the same time. And the navigator's prime role is to really get them to get into the services and navigate them through the services. So the example with the woman with the disability benefits, they spend more time with them on how you apply for the benefits, where do you need to go for the benefits, and the paperwork. If we have the outreach person doing that, they're not going to be able to go do outreach because they're going to spend all their time with that individual.
I have a question. Where do you need resources? Is it the outreach piece or is it the navigator piece, or both?
Currently, we need it on both sides. To be quite frank, we need more outreach and more navigation. What we're trying to find out and what we're learning in the first 3 months, and Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, we escalated when we rolled out Phoenix Cares the first month. The calls came in pretty excessive. We're now seeing a stabilization, so we're getting a better handle on how many calls we're seeing on average every month, so we can get a sense of how many people we're trying to outreach to within a month while navigate the current people that are in the system. So as we go through this each month, we'll get better and better at, as they're doing in the system, how many people are coming in and how many people were flowing out at the same time.
Councilmember Williams?
Data again.
Yes.
Are you able to tell us how many of those calls come from which district and how many times you go back?
Yes, we do. We are tracking by council district, correct, Chris? Yes, we do track by address, by council district as the calls are coming in. So we do know by district how many calls are coming in.
Because I'm really curious. I mean, I haven't seen any changes. How many? In District 1?
Mr. Chair, Councilwoman Williams, I have through March right now, but you're in double digits versus triple digits on the other districts, so you're
I don't buy that.
66 out of 900. These are coming through our system.
I
can't-
understand
yeah.
that. I think people are not calling in because when they hear encampments, they think it has to be like we have a Cortez Park that you went in and addressed so many times. I will tell you, the single homeless are everywhere and behind the bushes on the freeway. I mean, and the ditches, the canals. But I don't think people are calling, and I'm confused on how to get them to do so. Because surely you tackle, I mean, we have regulars. I know the one that flies. I know the one down the street. And I also am concerned, I'm kind of changing subjects in here, but one of the problems I see is we have some wonderful, wonderful Good Samaritans in our faith community. And how to let them know that they are enabling a lifestyle because they give out food, they give clothing, they showers, plug your phone, charge your phone here. And I know that they are doing it with the right attitude and the right spirit, but they are not helping these people in the long run. And I'm hoping that it's through this process that you can come up with some ideas on how we let them know. When we were in the office, we talked about the one church I know of that works with, I think it's Black Mountain police officers, where they actually take photographs and gather information. And they have people come in and get their food box and their clothing and whatever. So please have that available, and I'm not sure where we go, but we try to convince them, there are other lifestyles that could be more productive. But I also know it's on an area that has great homeless problems. So, have I totally confused you?
No, not at all. One of the things we are doing and will continue to do is educate our faith-based community, to your point. We try to bring them together as frequent as possible to talk about other ways they can help us address the issue versus feeding in the parks. Primarily, we get a lot of the feeding in the parks, and depending on how they're feeding, the way they're doing it, there is some enforcement issues that we run into with what we can and can't enforce, but we'll continue to educate the faith community on what they can and can't do in a better way to help serve than the feeding piece, because it does enable.
And they really want to help.
Yes.
I think it's just they don't know what else to do.
Right.
So, if you could come up with a list, I'd be glad to publicize and send it everywhere, so.
We will do that.
Vice Mayor?
So it's very interesting that we're talking about this because, once again, I will go back to the program. MROPE did that. MROPE did it, worked with the faith-based community, worked with them to understand the enabling, and within the MROPE, or within the, I witnessed it in the west side where they educated the faith-based group, where they said, here's the best way, let's help organize in the best way to do this. Maybe you can provide transportation to deliver the food to CAS, so that then at CAS we could then get them services. So I highly recommend that you go back and work with the MROPE team on how they really delivered these type of services. It's just now you're an extension. I look at it as now another extension or arm as to trying to wrap around everything we want to do. I hear you loud and clear that we need more navigators and more outreach people. I would suggest that you kind of give us some guidance or a proposal as to this is what we would like to see and this is what it would look like, and find innovative ways where we could then build different teams or type of teams for the city. I agree with you that only 8 teams, which is 16 people, cannot cover the whole city of Phoenix. The other piece that I want to recommend is an opportunity for youth. The area that I served in, we worked with our re-engagement centers on developing benchmarks to track as a collective in order for us to be able to look at what the whole system looked like in the re-engagement centers and getting the same data out of them in order for the workforce development area. I would figure out amongst your collective impact, what is the information that we can all agree on collecting, and what is it that everybody needs in order to collect it? I understand that you're going by HUD standards, but I think that's when they're getting housing. Not everybody's getting housing. And so I think that's where we then branch off and say, okay, we need this information. It's a great starting point, but I think as we're growing and as we need to bring in more nonprofits and say, what is it? How do we do this as a large group and be able to use the data to leverage for more resources that all of us are on the same page? So I think for launching this and taking on this big task, you guys are doing a great job. It's just now we're fine tuning all the little pieces that we need in order to tell our story. So thank you.
And as the Vice Mayor says, it's a new program, we're fine tuning it, And I like to look at some of the past information on the enrolls to find out, maybe the last 3 years, how many people you've been serving each year, has it increased, decreased, and what type of services that were provided. And I think that the other thing is this whole program was created from the grassroots community. People from all districts are saying we need to do something about our homeless situation, and not just going after, but finding services and providing them with help and alternative ways of coming out of the situation that they find themselves in. But at the same time, I think the vice mayor is onto something where if we can work with maybe the religious groups that are out there, all the churches, and I know that we must have close to 1,000 different churches within the city of Phoenix, and if each church would just adopt one of their homeless individuals, I mean, that would help us out a lot. So how do we coordinate all those good efforts that are out there and maybe just coordinate it all so we're all working together for the same cause? So once again, if you could bring that back, all that information in the next meeting. And the reason that's so crucial to get all this data is because we're going to be looking at budgets, and we're going to be looking at different programs and funding, and we're going to have to make some hard decisions, and we want to make sure we have the data, the information in front of us, so when we're making those decisions, we're making the right decisions, right? So thank you. All righty, we're on item number 4. We're going to be talking about our police fleet.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jim Brigette. I am an Assistant Chief over the Strategic and Tactical Services Division. With me, I have the Tactical Support Bureau Commander Grady Carlson. Today, we're going to give you an update and information on our Air Support Unit. Commander.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. The Phoenix Police Department's Air Support Unit was founded in 1973. It's been located at the Deer Valley Airport since 1979. Currently operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Flies over 5,000 hours and answers over 10,000 calls for service every year. The unit's currently comprised of 36 personnel, 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants, 24 pilots and tactical flight officers, the observer, and it has a full-time 11-person FAA certified maintenance staff. We have 2 support staff to assist with administrative issues around the hangar. Moving on to the fleet. The patrol fleet consists of 5 American Eurocopter AS-350B3 helicopters, otherwise known as the A-Star. That fleet was purchased between 2004 and 2010. The first and oldest of those 5 was an emergency purchase when the entire prior fleet was grounded. The rest of that fleet was purchased using capital improvement funds. Current value of those 5 helicopters combined is approximately $3.3 million. The primary use for those helicopters are patrol flights. They fly daily patrol flights scheduled for 10.5 hours each day. When they're down, they're still available for call-up in emergencies, under emergency situations. The next helicopter is a twin-engine Augusta A109. It was purchased in 2005 using capital improvement funds, and it's worth about $3 million today. The sole purpose of this helicopter is to support the Fire Mountain Rescue mission. Moving on to the airplanes. The 2 oldest and smallest of the airplane fleet both were built in the 70s and 80s. The smallest is a Cessna 172. It was actually donated to the department in 1986. Today it's worth about $65,000. Moving up to the Cessna 182, it was purchased in 1979, and I was unable to verify the funding source of the purchase at that time. But it is worth about $80,000 at this point. Both of these planes are utilized primarily for training purposes. In a pinch, if needed, they could do some low-level surveillance stuff in the metro area only. Moving on, the next larger plane is a Cessna P210. It was also built in the 80s. It was purchased in 2008 with court award funding in conjunction with the purchase of the larger plane, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's worth about $200,000 at this point. The primary use of this plane is in-state detective transportation for investigative purposes, and it serves as a backup to the larger Pilatus. The Pilatus PC-12 is the largest plane in the fleet. It was purchased in 2008 with capital improvement funds. It is worth about $3 million today. Primary use is high altitude surveillance. It also does intrastate detective transportations for investigative purposes, and it also has the capability of downlinking live video feed into the EOC for large-scale operations such as the Super Bowl or Final Four. Maintenance. Maintenance is a part of the daily operations of the unit, and it's quite frankly very extensive. We adhere to strict FAA mandated inspection intervals and part replacement intervals. All scheduled maintenance in the aviation world is based on flight hours. So components and parts are inspected, repaired, or replaced based on the accumulated flight hours. Fiscal year 16-17, we spent $3.2 million on maintenance. Year to date, so far, we're at $1.8 million, and we already know we're expected to spend an additional $1.6 million in the upcoming months. When we start talking about fleet replacement, an aircraft life theoretically is infinite. As long as we are willing to replace parts and components, it will continue to fly. A 7-year life cycle is ideal. At that point, you get the best value for trade-in and or selling the aircraft outright. It allows the introduction of new technology into the fleet, and you can avoid some pretty significant maintenance costs at that point. If we were to start replacing aircraft, the fixed-wing fleet could be downsized to 3 aircraft. We're currently looking into outsourcing new pilot training, and if that happens, 2 Cessna 206s could replace the 3 other Cessnas that we have. Each of those would cost about $1 million a piece. And a new Pilatus PC-12, if we wanted to add another or replace, they're about $6 million today.
May I ask a question? On the Pilatus, didn't we get an exceptionally good deal when we purchased that? It was originally designed for somebody else in another country, and so we got it at a bargain price.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and Councilwoman Williams, we did. That aircraft was built for someone else, so it was sitting, waiting to be sold, and we did get a pretty good deal on that, quite frankly. Moving on to the helicopter fleet, 6 Airbus H-125s would replace the patrol fleet, and it's worth noting that a few years ago, Airbus absorbed American Eurocopter, and arguably they're the largest aircraft manufacturer in the world. The H-125 is basically the same aircraft we have, it's just Airbus's new designator. And each aircraft now is running about $5 million. For the mountain rescue program, an addition or replacement for the Augusta that we have would be another Augusta. It's an AW-169. It's a little bit bigger, more powerful, and that would cost about $10 million.
And Mr. Chairman and members of the Public Safety Committee, as part of this presentation, the commander and I met with both finance and budget to talk about different options we can do, which include outright purchasing and lease purchasing options. So with that, do you have any questions?
Councilmember Williams?
And we do both?
Mr. Chairman?
Or a combination of that would, I know that I visit often enough out there.
Yes, ma'am.
And I hear that it is time, it would be far less expensive to at least purchase or obtain a couple new ones and begin phasing new ones in than the repairs and the maintenance that we currently do on what we have. So, I mean, I know that our situation is not such that we can go out and fulfill your wish list. But I would really, I'm a firm believer in that helicopter makes a difference. whether it's actually hovering over the site and has the spotlight scaring all the neighbors to death, or, just patrol. It has an impact that I think this city needs because of how spread out we are. But I want to begin to recognize not only the need, but it takes money to do that. And we need to begin to purchase those. So I guess what I really would like to see, Milton, is tell us what's important, what will save us money by spending money, if there's such a thing to say, and on a phase-in process. Because I'm a big supporter. I think you need some new equipment.
Mr. Chairman, Councilwoman Williams, we can certainly do that. And to the heart of your question, we don't have to approach it where it's all purchase or all lease. There could be a combination of purchasing some and leasing others. We would work with both budget and finance to figure out the most strategic way to do that. Part of what we wanted to convey to you all this morning is you heard the commander, when you start spending in the millions just on the maintenance side, when you total that up, you're sort of spending more than the plane's worth just to keep it. So we think that it would be better, more efficient use of our dollars to have a strategy, and we can come back.
I was the one that asked to put this on the agenda. I had the opportunity to fly in one of our helicopters, and it was midday. And during that midday, they had a chase and ended up in a neighborhood. And in the backyard of one of the neighbors, adjacent to where the person was hiding the car, was some kids playing. So the officers we were able to see children in the back, so they didn't know if it was going to be a situation where there might be gunfire or so. So we had a squad car go and ask the neighbors to bring the children inside, and then they were able to get that individual that stole that car. Then the other thing happened was there was a shoplifting case where the person was running from the store and started taking off his red shirt and had a white T-shirt on. So everybody was looking for a person with a red shirt, and it was a person with a white shirt. And the helicopter, we were up on the air, you can actually see that person taking off the shirt. And the police were waiting at a corner when he ran right into the police officers. So having eyes up in the sky looking down, I mean, it's really a great advantage, not just for our police officers to get those individuals that are breaking the law, but for the safety of the residents that happen to live in areas where there is a chase or where something bad is coming down. So, and then at the same time, we had a mountain rescue where we were able to go to South Mountain and find an individual that was lost on the mountain, that was calling with on the phone, on a cell phone, and we still couldn't find that person. It would have taken probably a day or so for individuals hiking and looking for that person. It took us about 15 minutes. So it does save lives, it does secure our neighborhoods, and it does help the police officers. So when I was there, we were actually talking about the maintenance and how old our crafts are. So I've asked other colleagues like in Los Angeles, and one of the things they do is they actually lease their helicopters, and they were saying that it works out great because technology changes within 3 to 4 years. And basically, if you switch out every 7 years or so, you still have that option of receiving the new technology that's out there for the police enforcement in the air. So I think that we should really look at that option of leasing, and maybe even our airplanes, if there's some of those planes that are in good shape that we can maybe hold off and use those. But the helicopters for sure. That's something our city's growing by leaps and bounds, and we're 500 square feet, where other cities are just a quarter of that, where it's easier to actually have a couple of helicopters watching the whole city. But for ourselves, we're so spread out that we need more. So thank you.
So I know this is for information and discussion.
Ma'am?
My question to you is, what are we going to see for the maintenance piece, asking for additional dollars, Or will this be coming out of the current budget? I'm not really sure what the future ask will be. And I'm assuming because what we're gonna start to see is throughout all our subcommittees, this is just not just you, people are gonna be starting to talk about maintenance of buildings. So I'm just asking for the purpose of this information and discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Mayor Pastor, the amount of maintenance requests that we make would be connected to what strategy we choose on replacement of the fleet. If we say we're not going to replace the fleet, then we're going to need to ask for a lot more money for maintenance. If we're going to strategically replace it, that would impact how much we need for maintenance. And to add one other feature of the way things are evolving, we will always need the fleet, but for people that are, for example, lost on a mountain, the way the trend is going, you use a drone to find that person versus a helicopter because it's cheaper, it's quicker, and then they can figure out the strategy for how to get them down. So that we want to integrate and be more efficient with our dollars, but that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I just want to know where we're headed.
Yes, ma'am.
Only to be aware what we're headed. I mean, because I think I've gotten a little smarter at this process and have now started to see how it operates in the sense of we start the discussion and then it starts to roll out. I just rather say we need additional dollars for maintenance and this is why.
So Chief, can you actually, as Councilmember William was saying, purchasing versus leasing or a combination of both? And what would it cost us to actually maintain the vehicle, the aircrafts that we have now? And maybe we can all see the three different options and then maybe come up with something where we can send it to the full council to actually look at.
Mr. Chairman, subcommittee members, yes, we will work with the finance and budget and get those numbers for you.
Councilmember Williams?
Hopefully as soon as possible, because we have a budget and budget hearings coming up soon. For a future item, kind of based on this conversation that we've had, in the police department, there's lots of other equipment that I've not seen or heard of upgrades, replacement, or maintenance. I mean, everything from what you use for bombs and other little tools that you have, shall I just say. Do we have regular maintenance on those and replacement plans? One thing we learned this last year is we've been a little lax about maintaining some of our buildings and equipment and et cetera. And I want to make sure that it's all inclusive going into the future, that we are really tracking everything and everywhere. So, Milton?
Mr. Chairman, Councilwoman Williams, I think to be fair, and Director Spencer is in here, what we're dealing with right now is, yes, we've had plans, but we've been deferring maintenance on a lot of things over a period of time. So when you go to the plan, is the plan accurate on what it will actually take today? We're in the process of updating that information. So we want to methodically come to you and engage you in our conversation on here's what our needs are, here's what the sticker shock might look like, and here might be options for dealing with our issues across the board. But that's across multiple subcommittees, but we are working better horizontally across the organization to be able to do that, and we're trying to get in position to give you all the information you need so that as you are making spend decisions, you're equipped with the full situation.
So I think what we would like to see is maybe as a future agenda item for public safety, police, fire, and the courts, what are the needs? Not the wants, but the needs. What are the needs? If it's vehicles, if it's aircrafts, if it's equipment, bomb equipment, or whatever it is, we really don't know. I mean, you all are the experts I know we've had a freeze for the last 7 years, 8 years, and I know that we've maximized, so now we're concerned of making sure that we're not putting money before safety, right? So I think that what we want to do is have that priority list, and then we can start going down that priority list with the budgets that we have, and we can actually look at the public safety needs, which is fire, police, and the courts. And if we can have that as a future agenda item, that would be great to prioritize that.
Yes, sir.
And bicycles and modern technology for bicycles. That's my plug.
Okay.
Drones.
Whatever they may need.
All right, anything else? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
From helicopters to taxi cabs.
I didn't realize how fire used taxi cab.
It's all yours.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski, members of the subcommittee. I'm here with my colleagues this morning to talk about the city's various taxi cab voucher programs. The taxi cab program began with the Phoenix Fire Department approximately 30 years ago. Initially, it was used to transport individuals, our members, back from the hospital. When they rode in, we had private ambulances at the time. We didn't have our own. They would use the taxi vouchers to transport themselves back to the station so the crew could go back into service more readily. Over time, we have identified other needs for the voucher program. As you all are well aware, the community's needs have changed over the years. They are accessing us for all different types of issues. And they increasingly call us for calls that are non-emergent in nature. These are types of calls where someone needs to go to a pharmacy, somebody needs to go to an urgent care, things that we're not necessarily equipped. Our internal transportation services are not equipped to take care of that. Per DHS, our rescues or our ambulances can only go to one place. They can only go to an emergency room. They can't transport anybody anywhere else. And that's the only internal transportation option that we have. Oftentimes, like I mentioned before, our customers need some type of an external ride. Other than an emergency room, like I said, it's either a pharmacy, sometimes they just need a ride home. They're somewhere where they've gotten themselves into a situation where they need to go somewhere other than a hospital. What we try to do as far as trying to find options for folks who need those types of services, external rides, we work with their family. We work with a friend, and then we have taxi vouchers. To qualify for a taxi, first of all, there's protocol for us to do that. We will evaluate the individual. They don't always have a medical condition, like I said before, but if we are to use a taxi to take somebody in, they'll be evaluated by the crew. We'll take sets of vitals on them just to make sure they are stable. They will sign a waiver that says that they deny a transport with one of our ambulances or care from us. And then the captain, we have a supervisor on scene. So we have a captain who'll make that final decision if it's okay for them to take the taxi in. Let me say this, if a customer needs emergency care for any reason, we will always take them in an ambulance. We do not transport them in a taxi. That is what our rescues are for. We have a finite number of those, but anytime there's a medical emergency, we will always use a rescue for that. Last year, we ran on about 200,000 calls. About 90% of those were EMS calls. 4% of those, are about 7,600 calls, generated a call for a taxi. We spent about $95,000 last year on our taxi voucher program. This is a national problem. This isn't just something unique to Phoenix. This is something that is going on across the country. We're working with other stakeholders here in town, whether it's insurance companies, hospitals, other city departments, to try to find ways to provide these folks with non-emergent transportation. The ARC program is currently on hold, taxi cab voucher program. We've maximized the amount of money that we're allowed to spend, so we are always looking for new ways to provide this service for folks. We'll continue to proactively search for best practices across the country, as well as innovative ideas that we can come up with to provide this service for our customers.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. My name is Judy Boros, and I'm with the Human Resources Department. And I'm here to provide an overview on the Emergency Ride Home program for city employees. The Emergency Ride Home program provides taxi cab services home for those employees who use alternate modes of transportation to get to work. To be eligible, an employee must ride the bus, van or carpool, bike or walk a minimum of 3 days a week. Approved reasons to utilize the service include a sudden personal or family illness or injury, unforeseen need to work overtime, or an unavoidable problem with the employee's alternate transportation that leaves the employee stranded at work. So each qualified employee is eligible for 2 subsidized emergency cab rides home during a rolling 12-month period. The first cab ride is fully subsidized for the employee, so the employee pays nothing. The second cab ride is subsidized at 50%, so the employee is only responsible for half the cost. And any additional rides during that 12-month period would be fully paid by the employee. So during calendar year 2017, 46 employees utilized this service. And so far during calendar year 2018, we've had 13 employees utilize this emergency ride home service. The average cost is approximately $30 per ride. The program is funded through the Human Resources General Fund operating budget. And the budget for fiscal year 17-18 is $4,000, and approximately $1,700 in expenses have been incurred fiscal year to date. So this program does support our city's employees' use of alternate modes of transportation to work.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, I'm Ken Kessler with the Public Transit Department, and I'm here to discuss public transit's various taxi cab programs that we have. We refer to these as our alternative transportation programs, just yesterday, we actually went to the Transportation Infrastructure Subcommittee with award of a new contract that will begin on July 1 for this. So just a little bit of information there. So the programs that we provide under public transit, there are a variety of them. We have what we categorize into 2 groups. The Group 1 programs are our ADA cab, senior cab, employment and employment training cab, and repetitive medical trips cab programs. Those programs are eligible for folks, the ADA, the employment, and the repetitive medical trips are for folks who are ADA certified. The senior cab program is eligible, folks who are 65 or older residents of Phoenix are eligible for that program. Under this program in fiscal year 2017, there was about 52,000 trips taken under these 4 programs, at a cost of between $600,000 and $700,000 for the 4 programs combined. Average cost for these programs, as far as the city's subsidy share of the trips, is about $12 per trip. And then the Group 2 programs are specific to the city's senior centers. This is a program that had several years ago been operated by the Human Services Department as the Reserve Ride program. If you recall, that was a mini bus operation. Public Transit was asked to take over this program several years ago, and over the first couple of years, we looked at some different service delivery models, and we came up with a taxi program that basically cut the program's cost in half. It had about a $3.2 million budget under the Reserve Ride minibus model, and it now is about between $1.5 and $1.6 million per year to operate this program. And what this program does is it provides individuals taxi trips to and from their homes in the senior centers. And so in addition to have that sort of direct point-to-point and not multiple people riding on a minibus, it also gives them the flexibility that they can go to and from the senior centers at any time, where previously under the Reserve Ride model, there was a schedule when the minibuses were picking people up in the morning and taking them back in the afternoon, so it provides that additional flexibility. And under this, in this program we call the Senior Center Shuttle Program, there were about 92,000 trips taken in fiscal year 17. And then another program related to the senior centers as well as what we call our Senior Center Group Trip Program. So as you may be aware, the senior centers schedule group trips each year, a variety of them from each of the centers, and we provide the transportation for those group trips. And this is not specifically a cab program, but it's under the same contract. And our contractor uses minibuses to transport the groups from the senior center to their activity. And last fiscal year, under this program, there's about 16,300 trips taken. And for these two Group 2 programs, the Senior Center Shuttle as well as the Group Trip Program, the cost is about $14 a ride for each individual. And that's all the information I have on the public transit programs.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski and members of the subcommittee. Again, Marshall Franklin, Interim Director of the Human Services Department. And in addition to the two transportation programs that Ken referenced, we have two that are directly managed under the Human Services Department. The first one is we provide taxi services to parents and families in our Head Start Birth to 5 program. And they're designed for transportation between the socialization parent meetings. We really focus on a holistic approach when we talk about Head Start and ensuring the success of our most vulnerable population from an educational perspective. So we use the taxi services for that. Since July 1 of 2017, approximately $5,000 has been spent on services and 148 trips have been logged. All those services are funded through the Head Start Birth to 5 Fund, so federal grant. And then secondly, under the Human Services, we also provide taxi services to clients who need rides to and from our Family Advocacy Center. And in 2017, approximately $2,000 was spent and 107 clients used the services. And with that, I believe that concludes our presentation.
Any questions from my colleagues?
Quick one. When you say taxis, does that include Uber and Lyft?
Chairman Nowakowski and Councilwoman Williams, at this point, it is just, our contract is just with taxi cab services.
So it's due because we have a contract. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the case as well for the public transit programs.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you for the report. Marcel, I guess you're not sitting up here anymore. Next would be call to the public. We have no cards, so any future agenda items?
I have a future agenda item.
Vice Mayor?
I would like a report on the engine and ladder and rescue coverage for Phoenix. I'm hoping that it identifies where there are gaps between fire and EMS resources and some safety issues in that area, and would like to hear about it next month.
Mr. Chair, can we add on to that a list of equipment, maintenance, et
Yes.
cetera, priority, critical replacements from the fire?
I lumped that on the, I figured that would be
On the
part of
other
the
one?
other one, but yep, all that too. Include that.
Anything else? With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.